All right, Law 15. This one hits different. It's bold, brutal, and for many, uncomfortable. But Greene doesn't soften the message. Crush your enemy totally. Not partially, not politely, totally.
And that word, totally, is the key. Because this law isn't about punishment. It's about eliminating threats permanently, leaving nothing behind that could regroup, retaliate, or rebuild later.
Exactly. Because in the world of power, if you leave your enemy wounded but alive, they don't disappear. They watch, they adapt, and eventually they return, stronger, smarter, and more vengeful.
And that's where most people go wrong. They confuse mercy with strategy. They think letting someone off the hook shows strength, but all it often does is create a future problem disguised as a moral victory.
Greene gives the example of Napoleon, brilliant tactician, but when he defeated enemies and showed leniency, they didn't thank him. They waited, they rearmed, they rose again, and eventually they buried him.
Same in business, politics, even personal conflicts. When someone openly threatens your power, your position, your vision, and you neutralize them just enough, what you've actually done is give them motive and time.
And they'll use both. While you move on thinking the conflict is over, they're recalibrating, looking for weakness, waiting for their moment. And when it comes, you won't see it coming.
That's why this law isn't about cruelty. It's about finality. It's the decision to resolve a threat so completely that it has zero ability to recover. No reputation left, no influence, no network to rebuild from.
It's harsh, but in power dynamics, half measures are dangerous. They create lingering tension, unspoken grudges, and unfinished wars. And unfinished wars are breeding grounds for future chaos.
And here's the twist. People often respect total defeat more than they respect mercy because they recognize decisiveness. They recognize the clarity of action. The message is loud. Cross this line and you're done.
It sends a signal, not just to the enemy, but to everyone else watching. It defines your boundary. It establishes your seriousness. It tells the world, I don't leave fires burning.
That's power, not just in strength, but in message. Because in the world of influence, your reputation is strategy, and how you handle your enemies defines how others calculate their next move around you. Let's talk about what happens when you don't apply this law, when you stop halfway, when you pull back right before the threat is fully neutralized.
What happens is simple. You lose control. You think you've won, but really, you've just paused the conflict. You've created a future version of your enemy, one who's smarter, angrier, and more motivated to see you fall.
And this happens all the time in leadership, in politics, even inside companies. Someone undermines you, you confront them, maybe remove a title, maybe reposition them, but you leave them inside the system, breathing, watching.
And they don't forget. They don't go back to being neutral. They start playing the long game. Quiet alliances, subtle sabotage, waiting for your guard to drop, because now they have nothing to lose.
That's the risk of not going all the way. You think you're being fair, but fairness doesn't matter to someone who feels humiliated or displaced. They don't want balance, they want revenge.
And here's what most people miss. If someone has declared themselves your enemy, publicly or subtly, they've already crossed a line. They've already chosen opposition. You didn't start the war, but you do choose how it ends.
And ending it halfway is dangerous. You leave pieces behind, pieces that remember, pieces that rebuild. And those are the pieces that become threats later, usually when you're focused on something else.
Greene is ruthless here, but clear. Mercy in the wrong place is weakness, and weakness invites challenge. That's the logic of power. Not kindness, not empathy, effectiveness.
And let's be real, in most high-stakes situations, you only get one chance to remove a threat cleanly. Miss it, and the opportunity rarely comes back. The person adapts, the environment shifts, and now you have to play defense instead of offense.
That's why this law is about clarity, not cruelty, but decisiveness. You don't need to humiliate, you don't need theatrics. You just need to make sure there's no path back for the person who tried to take you down.
It's a hard pill to swallow, especially for people who lead with empathy. But in a power game, empathy must serve strategy, not override it.
Because no matter how strong you are, if you leave space for resentment to fester, it eventually organizes. And when it organizes, it moves against you.
So the law is simple, and it's final. If you have to eliminate a threat, eliminate it fully. Don't hesitate, don't stall. End it before it ends you.
Now, when people hear this law, their minds go to extremes: public takedowns, humiliation, revenge. But here's the thing: crushing your enemy totally doesn't have to be loud. In fact, the smartest moves are often quiet.
Exactly. Elimination isn't always about confrontation. Sometimes it's about isolation. You don't need to attack someone directly. You just remove their influence. You cut their connections. You silence their access to resources. You leave them with no room to breathe.
And when you do that well, the enemy fades without even realizing they're being erased. By the time they feel the impact, it's already over. That's strategic silence. That's real control.
One of the cleanest applications of this law is reputational. You don't scream their failures. You let them lose credibility through your precision. You reveal just enough truth to make them appear unstable, unreliable, or irrelevant.
And again, it's not cruelty, it's containment. You're not acting out of anger, you're protecting your position. You're removing a threat without creating unnecessary noise.
And the best power players don't need spectacle. They don't need revenge monologues. They move surgically. The damage is clean, the door is closed. No one questions it because the message is embedded in the outcome. This is what happens when you come for the throne.
And let's be clear, this isn't about being paranoid, it's about being thorough. The goal isn't to create enemies everywhere. The goal is that when one does appear, you respond with enough precision that no one else wants to follow that path.
That's what total means. Not just removing the enemy, removing the idea of challenging you. That's the layer most people miss. It's not about punishment, it's about prevention.
And this is where reputation becomes a weapon. When people believe you don't tolerate threats, they self-regulate. They stay in line, not because you threaten them, but because your track record speaks for itself.
It's like a fortress. You don't have to show the weapons all the time. You just have to make it clear that if needed, you will use them, and you won't stop halfway.
And when your enemies know that, most won't even try. They'll look for easier targets. That's power without noise. That's influence without escalation.
So crushing your enemy totally isn't always about aggression. It's about removing options, quietly, permanently, and letting the silence speak louder than any conflict ever could. Let's get into the part no one wants to talk about. What if your enemy isn't a distant rival, but someone close, a former friend, a colleague you once trusted, maybe even a mentor? That's when this law becomes real.
And that's where most people freeze. They get caught in nostalgia, in emotion. They remember the history, not the betrayal. And because of that, they hesitate. They choose diplomacy when what's needed is decisiveness.
But the harsh truth is this: betrayal from someone close is more dangerous, not less, because they know your weaknesses, your habits, your blind spots. They don't need to guess how to get to you. They already know.
So when someone close turns against you, the damage they can do isn't just operational, it's personal. And if you try to preserve that connection out of guilt, you invite more harm later.
We've both seen it. Leaders who keep a toxic advisor around because of past loyalty. Founders who won't cut ties with a co-founder who's clearly working against them. That kind of hesitation costs more than money. It costs control.
And Greene is blunt here. When someone declares themselves your enemy, regardless of your history, the history becomes irrelevant. The threat becomes now. And your job is to neutralize it fully or accept the consequences of not doing so.
It doesn't mean acting impulsively. It means removing emotion from the decision and asking, does this person have the ability to destabilize what I'm building? If the answer is yes, then the response must be complete.
And that completeness is key. Half removals only make things worse. If you try to demote a threat instead of removing them, they'll use the time and space you give them to reorganize, now fueled by resentment.
People don't forget being sidelined. They wait, they listen, They align with others who feel slighted. Before you know it, you're dealing with not just one enemy, but a coalition.
Which is why this law isn't about punishment. It's about preventing escalation. Sometimes eliminating a single threat early avoids a future war you won't see coming.
But yes, it comes at a cost. There's emotional weight. You might question yourself. You might lose sleep. But the price of not acting is often far greater.
Because regret doesn't show up when you eliminate a threat. Regret shows up when that threat returns, stronger, sharper, and closer than before.
So ask yourself, are you being kind or are you being naive? Power requires clarity, and sometimes clarity means closing the door permanently.
Now, here's the nuance. Crushing your enemy totally isn't about becoming paranoid or power-hungry. It's about making final decisions, not emotional ones. It's about choosing stability over lingering threat.
That's what people often get wrong. They think this law invites a cycle of destruction, but Greene doesn't say destroy everyone. He says when you recognize a true enemy, eliminate the risk they pose completely.
And the difference is massive. You're not acting from anger, you're acting from analysis. You've identified someone who, if left unchecked, will undermine you. The question is, do you deal with it now or later, when it's worse?
And here's the uncomfortable truth. If you're in a position of power, you will have to make these calls. Whether you're a leader, a founder, a strategist, there will be moments when survival depends on decisiveness, not diplomacy.
And it doesn't always mean firing someone or cutting ties in a dramatic way. Sometimes it means repositioning, isolating, or restructuring so that the threat has no influence left. They might still be present, but powerless.
That's what crushing totally looks like in practice. You don't always need to destroy someone's career, but you do need to remove their ability to interfere with your mission, your momentum, or your mental clarity.
And once that's done, you don't obsess. You don't revisit the decision. You don't check if they're still watching. You move forward. That's part of the law, too. Emotional closure is a distraction. Strategic closure is final.
Because if you leave cracks open, if you keep wondering, did I go too far, or maybe I should have waited, you're inviting weakness back in. You made the move, stand in it.
It's not about being ruthless for show. It's about being resolved. Once you neutralize the threat, your focus shifts back to growth, to building, to leading, not managing old fires.
And ironically, this kind of finality often creates more peace, not less. People around you feel the boundary. They know where the line is. And when that line is clear, most don't dare to test it.
That's the kind of reputation that prevents future enemies from even forming. They look at what happened to the last one, and they think twice.
So the law is brutal, but it's clean. It's not about creating chaos, it's about ending it decisively, so you never have to fight the same war twice. So here's the final truth about Law 15. It's not about brutality, it's about clean exits. When someone makes it clear they're a threat, your indecision doesn't buy you peace, it buys you instability.
Exactly. And that instability spreads quietly. The longer you hesitate to act, the more space you give for the threat to grow inside your team, your company, your own mindset.
And power, real power, can't exist in a state of internal division. If you're constantly managing around a person who's already shown you who they are, you're bleeding control every day you delay.
The mistake people make is thinking time will fix what only decisiveness can. Time doesn't solve betrayal. It just gives it time to mature.
So crushing your enemy totally doesn't mean becoming cold or cruel. It means becoming clear. You're not acting from ego, you're acting from structure, from awareness, from resolve.
And once you act, once the threat is gone, you don't gloat, you don't perform. You just return to building. And everyone watching understands, you're not someone who tolerates sabotage.
That clarity has ripple effects. It establishes your leadership, your boundaries, your seriousness, and perhaps most importantly, your focus.
Because at the end of the day, leadership isn't just about vision. It's about what you're willing to defend. And sometimes that means being the one who ends things permanently.
so everything else can keep moving.
So here's our final challenge. Think about the unresolved threats in your environment, the people, situations, or dynamics that are still lingering. Are you avoiding a final decision? And if so, why?
Are you waiting for them to change? For the problem to solve itself? Or are you afraid of looking like the bad guy, even if you know it's the right move?
Power doesn't care about how you feel. It responds to clarity, action, and consistency. When you crush a threat completely, you don't just remove danger, you restore direction.
Next week, we shift gears with Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. One of the most subtle and elegant plays in the power game.
Until then, stand firm, act clean.
And remember, leaving an enemy standing is never mercy. It's a delay in your own downfall.